The excitement is building here, especially with the Cardinals. And how about Greg Dortch? Greg Dortch, we would agree, fan favorite on this team. Maybe not the fan favorite, but a fan favorite.
No doubt about it, man. I mean, this is a guy very diminutive in size, of course, and yet he goes out and he balls out. You want to talk about a gremlin. This guy is a football player through and through.
I was reading through that list yesterday of players that have been here for a couple years, right? You know, guys, because there's been so much change since the end of the 2022 season, which again is only 17 games. And some of the names, there's not a ton of guys really that have been here since 2022, but the ones that have been, it's Kyler Murray, it's Budda Baker, it's James Conner, it's Jalen Thompson, like guys you would expect, right? Or it's guys that are kind of fringy players anyway. And then there's Greg Dortch in the middle, who just keeps proving it. Year after year after year. Doesn't matter who the coach is, doesn't matter who the GM is. And if anything, now he may have an expanded role this year. He talked yesterday about his mentality going into this season.
The mentality stays the same. Undrafted, year 6, same mentality, man. If not, I'm a little bit more hungry than I was from the jump. This is a big year for me, and I just plan on going out there and just having fun, really. I feel like everything will take care of itself as long as I go out there and I just be myself and I have fun. I don't have no worries.
Yeah.
Don't you believe it when he says it?
Yes, I do.
I know it's the right thing to say, and a lot of guys say the right thing, but I feel like he's proven that is really his mentality throughout his career.
No, that is his mentality right there. You have to remember as well, Basinonians, always, as you watch football players, we all tend to focus so much on the physical, so much on their frame, so much on their obvious, tangible talent. Yet at the same time, never forget the game of football starts in the heart. It starts in the heart, moves to the brain, and comes out in the body. That's how it goes. That is the beauty of the game of football. It starts in your soul and then moves to your brain, your spirit, and then it comes out in the form of your body and what you have. Greg Dortch is a giant inside. He's that type of guy. Now, listen, does that mean he's going to go out and be a giant out on the field? Is he's going to be the best player out on the field? No. I mean, the reality is there. The limitations are always going to be there. But Greg Dortch is a great football player, in my opinion. I love his mentality. Now, he's got to go out and he's got to do it. He's got to play well.
He does, but he has worked really hard to get to this point where he has this role this season. And, you know, to your point, is he going to put up 1,000 yards receiving? I really like Greg Dortch. I will take the hard under on 1,000 yards receiving. But is he going to make key plays and key moments? Yeah, I think he is. He's done that when there was very little on the line for this team. He's done it with how many different quarterbacks? And not only have we seen him have chemistry with Kyler, we talked to him, and he mentioned the chemistry he has with Kyler. We talked to Kyler, and Kyler mentions the chemistry he has with Greg Dortch. So Greg Dortch yesterday was talking about how nice it is to have Kyler back for an offseason because he didn't last year.
I think it's super big. I think it's more important than a lot of people expect. Kyler's a dynamic player, and when he's in the huddle and like he speaks, we listen and we follow behind him. He's the leader of the offense. He's in control of everything. So to have him in the huddle from day one and just being out there and practice every day, man, it means a lot.
You know what?
You said the word right there. I'm sorry.
Yeah, say what you're thinking.
Huddle.
Yeah.
Okay. The huddle. It's one of the things I love the most right now.
JJ, can you talk a little bit on the huddle and your thoughts on the huddle and why you like it or why you do not?
That's right.
It
was a pretty direct question right there. Listen, there is a time not to huddle. There's no doubt about that. We all understand the 2-minute drill. Let's go. We got to go. But I even mean from time to time, running out there and changing it up. Just doing it out of nowhere in the middle of the first quarter. Just do it to make them think about something else that you can actually do. I've got no problem changing up the pace as well. But, man, the fact that the Arizona Cardinals are a team that huddle, I absolutely love that. And for the most part right now in the National Football League, that's what you're seeing, teams that huddle.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, it's also interesting to hear it's not just Greg Dortch, but how these guys just casually now refer to Kyler Murray, his leadership, and how much of a leader he is and how much they follow him. And we've heard it so consistently, and not the way we heard it 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Where it was almost like, hey, we have to make a point to tell you how good of a leader he is. Not that, or how good of a teammate he is. Now it's just, it kind of is what it is. It sort of hits me there hearing some of this, Wolf. It doesn't even really matter if people nationally don't believe Kyler's a good leader yet. It really doesn't, because his teammates do now. Like 2 years ago, I didn't believe that his teammates did. I didn't think they all hated him. It was just kind of like, it was so controversial you had to take a side one way or the other. Now these guys just do. They just do. This new group does.
Well, remember, we were having the open conversation about Kyler Murray, whether or not a quarterback needed to be a leader anymore. Remember?
That's true.
We were having the open conversation.
You asked Anquan Bolden and Drew Stanton.
That's right.
Yeah.
It was just, do they need it? And Anquan Bolden, whom I love.
Anquan Bolden, short-circuited you for 3 days.
Nobody's word means more to me on a football field than Anquan Bolden. Now, there's a lot of guys that mean as much, but nobody's word means more than the Quan when he's talking about football and playing in between those white lines. And he said, no, you really don't need it. That blew my mind.
Through his experience on a team where they had a ton of leaders, right? Because he obviously your reaction when he said it was one where he at least kind of circled back and was like, look, I'm not saying Joe Flacco's not a leader.
Right.
But he wasn't like the alpha leader on that team. But if you look at those teams, they had a lot of leaders.
Yes. Listen, do you have the cut on Dortch talking about being a return man in this new NFL?
I do.
Oh,
I do. Here it is.
This is good.
It's hard to say, just because I haven't seen it in person live. But just watching it on film, I think there's tons of opportunities for me to be explosive and make plays. So come September, I'm definitely excited for that too.
What changes specifically? What do you see that might allow you those greater opportunities?
Well, you don't have guys running down full speed. It doesn't start until I either catch the ball or the ball hits the ground. So that's kind of an advantage to me. The game's a little bit slower. And everybody's at one level. So, you break past that first level, it's just you and the kicker. I'll take my chances. Yeah, I'll take my chances with that.
That's an interesting point, what he just said. I know we talked to Jeff Rodgers about this out at Cardinals headquarters a couple weeks ago, and I know we've talked about it a few different times, but there's a very simple component to this, Wolf, of what he just said. If you can get past that first level as a kick returner, you're probably going to be gone more often than not. It's going to be really tough to get past the first level. But if you do...
Yeah. Can I just say the double team is coming back in the National Football League. There's going to be a lot of guys out there that are going to be doubled. I'm fascinated by this. Just talking to Jeff Rodgers, you know how fired up I was. Jeff Rodgers, a guy that I respect so greatly in terms of his special teams knowledge, he has no real idea as to what's going to happen, and he's willing to admit that. I love that about Jeff. That's who he is. Says so much about him as a man, but it's the truth. And you can just, to me, this is just me, when I think of the kickoff return and the way that it's going to be set up now, double teams are going to come back. Double teams are going to be really, really big. And why wouldn't you do it? You could take the best cover guy from the other team and all but annihilate him. He's only got a 5-yard cushion, He's only got a 5-yard cushion. How difficult is that going to be for your best cover guy? And what are you going to do with your best cover guy? Are you going to let him just run down the field straight ahead where they can't jump him immediately? 2 guys, jump him within a 5-yard cushion.
I'd almost drop him back depending on who's returning the kick.
Okay.
Depending who it is, if it's just some whoever. But if it's like Devin Hester in his prime, I might have him back
I'm
there
thinking right now, directional kick. You better have a kicker who's going to hit directional kicks left and right. Outside the numbers on either side of the field, inside the 5-yard line. That's right. I want a guy who can directionally kick that thing. We used to call it a coffin kick. Because once you got in that corner, outside the numbers, inside the 5-yard line, that you had nowhere to go. You had the sideline right there, and you had a bunch of bad dogs coming down the field. What are you going to do? For me right now, I'll go ahead and I'll make a directional kick, right or left, and I'll take my best cover guy, and I'll stick him away from where I'm going to go at first, away. And I'll have him just run a loop behind the line to get to the ball instead of letting two guys jump and try to cover.
That's not exactly what I was saying, but it's the similar concept, right? Of give him some room to run and get free and kind of control things a little bit more.
Okay, so much more on this as the ratings soar.
Thanks for watching Wolf and Luke. Tap to see more and click the button in the middle to subscribe to Arizona Sports.